I was high school student when I made my first PC boards, and it was a kit from Radio Shack, and I used tape, the pieces of tape, and to lay down the traces of the pattern, drilled it by hand, and all that kind of good stuff. Made one of those Nixie tube clocks, so that was kind of advanced for my skills back then, but. I didn't shy away from it or anything. I did get the PC boards etched and stuff, and so it was kind of interesting to learn all that. And then I've done some boards where you just cut some copper away. You don't actually etch them; you just cut some copper away and leave lots of land there for current to go through. Actually, made a rig runner for a project of mine. Put fuse holders in there and the power poles and the whole 9 yards. Just use an X-Acto knife or a utility knife and cut the copper away. Drill holes and solder the parts in. So the last class we'll go ahead and get started here. Last class we started drawing a schematic. Did everybody get a chance to get that drawn up?
Yep.
Anybody not get the parts connected?
Managed that as well.
I've got the parts. I didn't have them connected. I just realized I guess I hadn't saved it, so I spent the last 15 minutes just putting them all back on the.
Dip it back on, yeah.
Schematic,
okay,
but they're
that's
just
good.
Not,
Good
they're
practice.
just not connected.
Yeah, go ahead and connect those up. I'm gonna find where I stuffed mine.
Yeah, I got mine connected up, and I ran verification on it. Found the connection that wasn't connected. That looked like it was connected.
Yeah, get some of those.
I fooled with that for about a half hour. I finally forced it. I forced it to do something that really looked really stupid, and then I moved everything around.
Yeah, you can actually click on the errors, and it should, or if at least if it tells you what node it is, it should localize that for you and highlight that in the schematic.
What I thought was connection, all the connections are little dots.
Right.
Solid dots, and what I thought was a connection, I just couldn't see it was actually a rectangle at the end of the connection, rather than an open rectangle, rather than a little dot. When I looked closer, that's when I found it.
Yeah.
But I'd never known it was there if I hadn't run verification.
Yeah, just roll the mouse button. Has everybody verified their circuit so far? Bob, did you get a chance to even draw the schematic?
Yes. Oh yeah. Okay. I got your email, and then I was able to go ahead, get the parts, get it all together, ready to go.
Okay, and it verifies okay?
Yeah.
Also check hierarchy on those. I'm gonna run a real check on mine. Let's see. I suppose I should share my screen here, huh?
Well, I'll have to catch up because I don't have any of them drawn together, component wise.
It won't take you long. Just kind of put the lines on there and stuff.
I gotta find the diagram you sent me. There's your diagram, but
there's mine, yeah. So you can actually use that if you want. One thing
that'll take up your screen, so I'll just grab it off my email when you emailed them out.
Hey, Steve, what you might do is if you screenshot that and then drop that image in chat, I think we can pull it that way. That way you're not tying up your screen.
The picture should be in the chat window now. Okay.
Grabbing it. Thanks.
All right.
Hey, Steve, I just ran hierarchy and it said no error was found.
Okay, good.
What's it telling me?
I don't know. I forget. I got an error on there once, and I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, I guess that's good that there's no errors found.
Yeah. Okay. It'll tell you if you did something wrong. Most of the time. You can fool it, though. Let's see. All right, one of the things that I wanted to show you, I put down some connections here for VCC, ground, and out. And rather than draw lines for those, I connected those to a network without a wire. So if you right-click on a where you'd normally draw a wire, right-click on that, and so if I delete this one from the net, it's tied to VCC right now. And you can see all those parts are highlighted on the schematic there for VCC. I've got that net actually named VCC. And if I delete that from the net, it's just the part there now without a connection. And let's see. Let's run a check here. No errors on hierarchy. And no errors on electrical rules. So it doesn't really tell you that that's not hooked up. I think when you go to convert it to a PCB, though, it will. It'll say that there's only one wire there, and it's going to delete it.
Yeah,
So
see that little rectangle, that square you have that is hollow was the one that came up on an error on mine. I didn't do it like that, but
yeah,
it was supposed to be a connection. It looked like one where the wires were at, but the closer I got to that.
yeah, that's a spot to connect. Like I could, if I click on that, I can draw a line, right?
Yeah.
And I could actually connect that to VCC. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, just for the sake of having the schematic a little more readable. And I think some people use this to access, but if you say add this to net, you can get a little drop-down box here, and you can connect it to ground. You can connect it to one of the data nets, your output, or VCC. So I'm going to connect that up to VCC and say, click on that and say connect it without a wire, and then OK. And so when you mouse across that, let me escape here. And when you mouse across that, it'll show you all the connections of where that connection goes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Everything's highlighted in red there. Resets tied to VCC. The chip supply voltage and R2 are all tied to VCC. And if you mouse across ground, you'll see all the ground connections highlight up. And the output, there's just two connections there, pin 3 of the chip and then the output terminal there. So the properties there. It's this particular part is called connector CON_mail. Sometimes it's hard to find those kinds of things in there, and you got to root around and kind of find them. And you know, other people may draw it differently. They may put a circle out there or some other symbol to indicate a connection off the board. But then you've also got the ability down there in the lower left of that window there, when you look at his properties, to see what pattern is attached to that. And sometimes there won't be a pattern, and you'll have to pick one and assign it. But I put this, there's some wire symbols in there, some wire patterns, and I picked a 16 gauge wire to attach to that. So just something to, if you want to do a connection off board. In the past, I've used like terminal blocks and things like that to get a wire off the board. And it's whatever you prefer. There's some nice terminal blocks, the screw down terminals that you can put on there, that kind of thing. So, Ron,
How do you rotate the device? Capacitors and
highlight it and then hit the space bar, or R or Control R are the 3 ways that I know of.
Hey, Steve, that on that symbol on the 555 timer at the bottom right, that out goes to out. Where does that? I don't remember discussing.
That's it's connected without a wire here up to this terminal. That's the output of our 555 timer.
So if we didn't have that, this is the conmail piece, right?
That's the connector mail, yeah.
Like, so if we didn't do it this way, how would we reflect that?
You could put a terminal block in there. You know, it's, there's different kinds of terminal blocks. There's some like 100,000 pins that are separated. You might have a little connector that you plug onto that.
Okay.
You look at the different ways that people build boards and stuff. And but this particular one, if we wanted to just solder a wire to the board, and we put that pad in there, then we've got a place that it should show up on the PC board. Nice round pad there to solder a wire to. Last class, you had a capacitor that we had trouble finding, Mike, right?
Yeah, I found the Cap 100. I found both of those. That's what I'm using on mine.
Okay.
Am I on my line? Yeah, okay. And,
Yeah.
And what I'm using for ground and output connection is a connector called out dash connector underscore mail.
Mm-hmm.
Ground connection underscore mail. Now, that does not have a pattern attached to it.
Yeah.
So will I be able to do that later on in the layout?
You can actually do that now if you, like here, if I look at my out
Mhm.
terminal there and double
Yeah.
click that,
Yep.
I get this window that says component properties, and you can click on attach pattern.
Yep. And
And
there's no pattern.
you have no pattern in yours, and I
Yeah.
put a 16 gauge wire in there.
Okay.
You can actually filter for that. So if you click on filter, and we'll put the name of, I'm just going to put AWG in there, take the 16 off, and apply that filter, and it'll show us all the different gauges of wire pads that we could use as a pattern.
Oops.
And
It won't do that. It won't do that. So I'm gonna have to close that. So I'm just gonna look at it. Okay.
well, it's not doing it on mine either because I have just the current library selected.
Yeah.
So I've got to pick all libraries and then apply the filters.
AWG is what you want to use for the name, right?
Yeah, if that's what you truly want to put there.
Okay. Yeah.
And it brings up all the list of different gauge wires that you might want to attach to a board. I just picked 16. It was a nice round number and a decent sized wire.
AWG, and then you apply the filter, then it gave you a list of them.
You can see that list on my screen there, right? Starts at 10 gauge and goes all the way up to 40.
Okay, let's see. On your screen, let's see.
The right corner, lower right. You're filtering on the right side there under patterns. But you're on the right side of your screen, looking in the pattern libraries.
I'm not seeing any pattern. That's a pattern library on the left. Well, let's see. I don't have a pattern.
Components are on the left,
Yeah.
and we've got the properties up for that component, and we looked at the attached pattern.
Okay.
You want me to back up here a little bit?
Yeah, let's back up a little. I think what it amounts to is that what you're looking at is underneath everything I'm viewing on my screen, everybody's picture on the screen. Okay, so you went in there and you clicked on it, you double clicked on.
If I double click the part,
double click the part, got
it
it.
could be a diode as well. I mean,
Yeah, and I got component properties.
if I look at a diode and look at his pattern, he's got one. He's a DO-35. Okay. So
I'm looking at it, and I want to click on attach patterns, right?
yeah,
And
for the wire, you'll see the connector manual.
See the connector, and this is no pattern. Okay,
All right.
I've got what you got there. It looks a little different. Okay. And
On the right side of the screen, that says filter off, right?
right side of my screen. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
So click on filter off.
Filter there. Okay. And then you just used AWG as a filter.
As the name, yeah, the filter.
Okay.
And then hit apply filter. But make sure it's set to all libraries at the top, or it won't search all the libraries.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless you want it to go to a specific library for something.
I was filtering. I was picking off the left side of the screen when I was doing it.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be the components over there.
Oh, not too bad. AWG. It says 31 pattern. Okay. And you used AWG 16, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you could put 18 or 14 or whatever you want.
Well,
It's your schematic, right?
I'll do 18. Got it. Okay. Got it. Okay.
When you're putting a pattern on something, you can also apply to other components there. Do you see that on my screen?
Let's see here. Show me that. Apply to other components. Okay.
Yeah, and you can say apply to
Oh,
other connector underscore mail, so you could apply it to all those, all three of them at one time by doing that.
Let me do that again. Something else. Here we go. Apply to other components.
Yep, and then
Okay.
you can do all three at once instead of doing them one at a time.
Don't have corresponding pads to be connected automatically. It says.
So one thing I've run into building things is when you're putting wires on a board there, if they get flexed a lot while you're working with it, they tend to break off.
Yeah.
And so what I did in one project was I put some holes towards the edge of the board and tie wrapped them down so they wouldn't flex around. On another project, I put some epoxy around them just to
Oh, yeah.
keep them
Yeah,
from bending.
Tie wrap them down or put a.
I wrap them down or epoxy around them.
Yeah.
If they wiggle around, they're gonna break the copper strands very quickly, quicker than you'd think. I was sitting there working on it, and I, 2 or 3 times I'd move the thing around and boom, it broke a wire off. I'm like, doggone it, I got to do something about this. So we were talking, maybe you had the wrong component. You ordered your parts and one of them was bigger. Maybe one of the capacitors was bigger. What you can do is you can replace a component. If I'm moused over C1 right now, and if I right click that, I can say replace that part. Go up there about the middle of that window there and replace it. And maybe I can, if it doesn't show up there, I could filter for it. It's showing cap 100. I could replace that with a cap 200 because maybe the pins are further apart on my capacitor that I got from the part supplier than I had planned. But one thing you're going to want to do once you make that PC board is print it off and start laying your parts on there and just kind of eyeball and make sure stuff is going to fit. And so now if I double click this part and look at his attach pattern, it's going to be a larger cap. It's a 5.08. And let's go back to the other one. 5.08. And then a lot of times some of this stuff is in millimeters, and this is 2.54 for the other cap. So this would be like 100 thousandths of an inch, 2 holes on a your standard spacing of 1,000.1 inches. All right. And the other thing is, if you want to take, maybe you want to convert a project from through hole parts to surface mount and remake the PC board, you go through here and replace these parts with their equivalent in a surface mount, like the diodes and the resistors and an appropriate potentiometer and a surface mount 555. So, and we might just do that as an exercise when we get done with the first PC board. Might be kind of fun to just to try that, to play with some surface mount stuff. Speaking of part sizes, if you can find one of these reasonable, it's a digital caliper. It's great for measuring parts out of your junk box. How far apart things are, how thick wires are, all kinds of stuff. It'll save you lots of heartache. So I use this a lot. I have a hard time reading the old style, but the one there that gives me a number out, I'm good with that. All right. So we've got our schematic drawn, and now we want to make a PC board. And there's a real easy way to do that. You go up here to File in the upper left corner and go down about 2/3 of the way. It says Convert to PCB, and just click that. That'll bring up brings up a little window here. It says Use Schematic Rules. And I typically do that. It's going to use all the parameters that we've set in this schematic. Click OK there. And then it pops up the PCB Layout application.
Man, mine's fighting with it. Mine's telling me it's going to, I found something with one pin, it's going to be removed. This is not good.
Make a note of that one.
Okay.
Because you can go back and fix it after the fact. Go back and fix the schematic, and then you update the PC board.
Let me try this again here.
And Steve, I've got an error. I don't know if I want to go too far down without maybe fixing this, but
What does it
I
say?
tried to create those conmail connectors, and I guess I missed the part where you connect those to the, how you connect that to the rest of the diagram.
You could draw it in with lines,
Okay.
but I right-clicked on there and said connect it to network without wire. Let me go back to the schematic here.
Let's see. How do I go back? I guess I would, okay.
At the bottom of your screen, the apps will all be open down there.
All right, I see. So just go ahead and connect. Go ahead and connect it, I guess. Here.
You can connect them with wires, yeah. You can go back later
Let
and
me do that. I'll do that.
Yeah. Mine say the components out and ground don't have patterns. And it says the schematic can be converted to the board incorrectly. I'm just saying okay.
Yeah, that's what.
So you need to add a pattern to those terminals.
Yeah, I did, and then it gave me a bunch of netlist errors.
Yeah, if
Solid
you
schematic nets will contain one pin will be removed, net 7.
so this will show you some more errors.
Yeah, I'm trying. I can't. I reloaded my old schematic.
Yeah.
So were we supposed to select a pattern for the those conmail pieces?
Yes, you need to put some kind of pattern on there,
Something.
whether
Okay.
I
it's
think I need to get back on a PCB layout and go back to, I've got ahead of myself. How do I get back to schematic?
at the bottom of your screen. You should see the icons.
Here it goes. There we go. Got it. Okay, let's try it again.
It can be the red one.
I got PCB schematics. I got that now, and I want
Did you have a suggested pattern we should use for the conmail?
Yeah, AWG 16
AWG 16.
is what I used, and you can make it any gauge you want.
How'd you say to rotate these damn things?
Highlight it, click on it once, and then
Clicked on it. Right now I clicked on it and okay, it's got two, it's got the 4 squares around the device.
hit the space bar.
All right. Oh, okay. Got it now.
But once you get the schematic,
Yeah.
squared away, then the PCB board is more or less lining up parts and stuff, drawing a board outline, and then arranging your parts.
I think for guys that don't know, pretty much the sizes. That's the determining part. What component, what size. Actually, component identification. I've played with the 555 all the time, so
Yep.
used to. So I know what that is. But if I go to an AD processor chip or something like that, that's where it becomes a problem.
Oh yeah.
Part identification is what the bottom line is.
Oh yeah, that's there's some learning curve there, and you'll get used to some size parts. But a lot of the surface mount stuff, you're going to pick a size that you're comfortable working with, and you'll pick like the caps and the resistors that are that particular size. Like this cap 100, that's going to be 2 leads that are 100 thousandths apart, and the cap 200 is going to be twice that, and so on. So, and same way with the resistors.
Just got to keep playing and playing and playing with it.
Or I mean, if you've got a part number, you can search the part number too. There are some parts in the library here, and you may get lucky and find one of those. Let me get another window up here.
The problem is we don't have a place where we can buy parts anymore. Tanner's is gone.
I get a lot of stuff from Mauser.
Well, you got to order it. It's not go right to the place and get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they closed the will call desk with the COVID thing and everything. You can ship small orders. There's a cheaper parcel post for about $3.50 that you look at the shipping methods when you're checking out. If you need it quicker, then pick UPS Ground. They do about the best. They'll get it to you in just a couple days.
Yeah, it's just the idea. You can't go anywhere place locally just to drive to. Parts warehouse. Part like a Tanner's Electronics. You can't go in there and buy a relay right off the shelf, or you can't buy your resistors, capacitors, chokes, anything like that anymore. Yeah. Without actually going and ordering them.
Hey Steve, I just had I wasn't sure if you covered this error, but I made those connections and attached the patterns, and I got an error. Once I tried to go to PCB's components, G and ground, out, and VC contain pins which are connected to the nets but do not have attached pads. Schematic can be converted to the board correctly.
All right. Glad you brought that up. So let me double click on this. I'm going to go to my attached pattern, and I forgot to tell you this. You do need to connect the wire to the pad. If you mouse over the little square pin on the left there, and click that, drag that wire to the pad and attach it.
Okay.
And you get a blue line there. Looks like a rat line.
Bingo. There we go. All right.
That's what's causing that error. Yeah, probably one of the hardest things is if you've got to fabricate one of your own parts for something. And I'll typically take something else that's close to it and modify it. All right, you're good to go, Sam.
Good to go. That fixed it.
All right, I'm going to do the same thing here.
Why don't you go ahead and try to convert to PCB now, or did you?
I did, yeah. And I've got the little spider web thing.
Okay. See if you can draw a board layout. Put down your board layout, and you can make it like 4x4. It doesn't have to be real small right away, because you can shrink it later just by dragging the corners of the layout. And it doesn't have to be exactly square right away either. You can grab the corners and square that guy up.
Which corner? And I got a rat's nest here now. Which
Okay.
corners are dragged? I
So
got that.
we need to, let's see, where is it? Objects. Need to place the board layout. Let me find it again.
Place board outline.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
And you hold down the left mouse, drag, click, come down, drag, click, and the fourth point, just hit return. And there's my board layout. You click 3 times, and then the fourth one, you lock it down. And so blow that up a little bit. I can go up here. I'm gonna hit escape and go up here to the corner. And when you get the arrows pointing all 4 directions, you can drag that corner and square it up. Adjust that however you want.
Okay. To terminate it, you do a double click or you do escape.
I hit escape to get out of
Okay.
mode that I was in, so that I could do that guy.
Yeah, it disappeared. Okay.
Because you can make a board any shape you want, really.
Yeah, I kept trying to click.
One thing you want to do is what I like to do. You don't have to do it, but what I like to do is set that upper left corner in the origin at 0, 0 coordinates.
Corner.
And where was that? I found it here a second ago. It said display origin. Center view.
Yeah, go down the one.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, F1 will get you. It'll get you the origin. So where these blue lines cross is 0, 0. So I'm gonna drag a box around all this stuff, including the board, and I'm just gonna put it right there at 0, 0.
You drag a box around that. Where were you in when you did that? I'm still drawing lines here for some reason.
Hit escape.
Yep, escape. Okay. Drag a box around the whole thing. I got it. Okay. Highlight. Select all. Yep. And then drag the whole thing to origin.
I'm just kind of squaring this thing up. You can pick, once you select everything, you can just pick any part you want and drag the whole works with it. I'm going to make my box a little smaller here. Drag these corners.
Can I make it smaller after I start moving stuff around, or I gotta make it smaller now?
No, you can make it smaller anytime you want.
Okay.
Because you may replace a part, or you may rearrange things, and you want to change it. You're trying to shrink the board down.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have to be pretty right now.
Okay.
And so these blue lines that you see between the parts are called rat lines. And they're going to tell you where, see, now my whole box started moving there. I mean, I'm going to hit Control Z to move it back and click off and then drag again. These lines are going to show you where your circuits are going. And you can mouse over a connection and it'll highlight what it's going to get attached to. And so probably the main part here is our 555 timer. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to bring up one that I finished already. Stick that on my other screen. Okay. So if you want mounting holes, now would be a good time to put those in the board. Let's see. Objects. And there's, if you go to objects and down about a third of the way, there's place mounting hole. And so I click on that. I go to my board and drag. Click down. It didn't drag to the size I wanted.
You did objects. Oh, there we go. Quick.
Yep. There's some mounting holes there. I'm gonna right click on that and look at the properties of that mounting hole. And I want an 1/8 of an inch hole in there. Oh crap, I'm in millimeters. You guys are in inches, right?
Yeah.
I gotta find out.
How can we tell what units we're in?
If you look at the properties of that mounting hole, you'll find out real fast. It'll say inches and mine's in millimeters.
Okay.
I forget what I changed it for. I was looking at something else. Now I need to find that quick.
I got changed that to my 035, wherever it is, to 0.125.
0.125 would be an 1/8 of an inch hole, yeah.
Yeah, and it's got a keep out value on that. That's going to be
Okay, so here under,
yeah, the keep out's going to be the fall free area around it.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 0.175 is a nice number. Under view, you can look at the units there. And I'm going to change it back to inches on mine now, so that I can adjust the whole size here with 0.125. I'm going to tab down 0.175. And there's my 1/8 inch mounting hole. And so now I got that adjusted. I'm just going to click on it, hit Control C to copy that, and Control V to paste it. Drag one down here. And let's paste another one.
Need to copy it. Huh?
Just copy it, yeah. Don't create it twice. I'm going to move these, highlighted all those, and let's move those over. And a fourth mounting hole.
It's not going to. What's it look like when after I hit Control C? What's it supposed to look like?
You won't see anything. Just hit Control V and you'll get another copy of it.
Control C. Oh, Control V. Okay. Got it. Okay.
You paste it.
Got it.
And you can do that if you're want to duplicate a diode or resistor or any other part on there.
Hey Steve, so those two parameters, one was the hole, and then the other one was keep out. What is that?
It gives you a bare area on the board there. If we do a copper pour, it won't put copper in that area.
Okay.
And maybe you want to intentionally put copper there, but sometimes you don't, especially if you've got a ground plane and a power plane on opposite sides of the board. You don't want to attach the two together.
Got it.
Okay, so probably the most important part here is the 555 timer. And you can highlight that guy, and let's turn him and orient him where pin 1 is upper left corner.
How do you know which one's pin 1?
It's a square one. And you can mouse over it. When you put your mouse over it, it'll say U1.1 ground.
Oh, got it.
We know that's attached to the ground bus.
Is that a little bevel on the edge of it there too? At pin 1 on the edge of the outline.
Something dot. There's a little dot there.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a dot in the silk screen. And your colors may be a little different from mine. I've tweaked my colors. You know, you can feel free to go in there and change colors of objects. Let's see. In the upper right corner of your screen, you'll see layers, and you can change. You can click on the color there, and you can change.
Oh, okay.
You can customize the colors to anything that's pleasable to yourself. You know. So once you get the 555 oriented, then you want to take these parts and arrange them in such a way that they. Let me put my schematic over here. That it's a reasonable path to get to the chip. Like this cap that's down here at the bottom of mine, it's kind of in the wrong place and it's crisscrossed. I'm gonna hit spacebar a couple times and flip it around, and there it's a straight shot into the chip from there. And same way with this one, this cap here. So I can put him down here at the bottom. Let's take this one and orient it like that. And so you can play with all these parts and move the darn things around the board and have fun with that. If you don't like where things are, you get to change it. You take different stabs at it. So I'm going to put that resistor close by. And are your part labels showing up on yours, or are they blank like mine? I got something set up where it's not showing up. I'll have to figure that one out.
Hey, I've got an extra line on my C1 capacitor that you don't have. Maybe I connected this wrong on the design.
Let's see. C1 actually connects to 4 places. It connects to pin 6, pin 2 of the chip.
Yeah.
And the wiper of R1.
Yep, and ground, right?
And then the other side's hooks to ground.
So, but why? So, like on your design here on the PCB, it's only showing 2 connections. Is that supposed to be complete?
I don't think I had the off-board connections yet. Yeah, it should be complete.
Okay, I'm just looking at, I guess C1's the one on the left, right? And I just see the 2 lines there. Am I just not seeing that right?
Well, here's pin 2, and there's pin 6. If you mouse over a connection, it'll highlight all the places that goes.
Oh, okay.
And see, it's going down to the wiper of the potentiometer, and it's also going to pin 6.
Ah, okay.
So part of it has to do with how the parts are oriented.
Yeah, just yours just looked. You didn't see those initial all those same lines the way I guess mine looked, but I'm okay now. Good, thanks.
Okay. But it's nice you can mouse over something and see where they line up and stuff. Okay, so if you're happy with your layout or your arrangement there, then you can go up and you can say route and run the auto router. And this is where this program really shines. And voila, you have traces. This will flat save you some time. One thing I don't like is it makes little bitty traces. Are your guys' traces all small, I assume?
Yeah, they're pretty small.
I can highlight all this and stick it up here a little further. And you can rearrange things and make the board smaller.
Somewhere along the line, I lost my VCC connection.
Should be 3 pads there, right?
Yeah, I got 2.
Then that was the message that said it was going to delete one of the pins. Said there was only one connection. It was going to delete one of your pins.
Yeah, but then I guess that's what it was then. Well,
Yep.
why didn't it delete the output then? There was only one connection there too.
You need to go back and resolve that on your schematic. And once you do that, you can go up here to File and say renew this layout from the schematic. And I always do by components. And once you do that, any changes you made in the schematic are going to be reflected here in your PC board.
Okay. Maybe it didn't have a pad associated with that.
Most likely, yeah.
I've got 3 instances. Along my bottom, I got 3 pads that say PCB Layout. Should only have 1. I got 4. I should only have 1, shouldn't I?
Let's say what?
PCB Layout.
You get multiple copies open.
How did I manage that?
If you keep clicking, it'll keep doing things.
Let me go ahead and close those.
So a while back, I changed that capacitor to a 200 size cap, and you notice it's bigger on my screen than you guys probably have two 100
Yeah.
caps, right? So I'm going to go back to the schematic here, and I'm going to change that cap. Is this the one? Let me look. I just look at the pattern here. Yeah, that's the one with the bigger pattern. And I'm going to replace that part again here. And go back to a 100 cap and say, okay. All right, so now the schematic's updated on my screen, but you need to save it first. So I'm going to save it. And then I'll go back to the layout. But I still got a big cap. So what I can do is go up here to File and come down to Renew Layout by Components. And then I have to point it to the schematic file. And that's in Class Project. And there's my schematic. I'm going to double click that. And there's a part there. And I'm going to say use the schematic model, because they're different between the PC and the schematic. So I'll use the schematic model, and lo and behold, the cap is small now.
Okay, cool.
So we can use that same technique if we wanted to convert this to surface mount parts. We can go through and replace all those parts and then say update our layout, and we'll have a surface mount project instead of through hole. And it's kind of interesting to compare the two, because with surface mount stuff, you end up with a lot more vias or holes through the board to go to a run on the other side, because you can't make it somewhere.
I lost something here. I've got a component on my schematic that says VCC. I think that was the one you had us use to begin with. And I don't see anything associated with that. Actually, it's not in the parts list anymore. It's not a part, it's a VCC. It's like a T.
Are you looking at the schematic?
On the schematic, yeah. I'm trying to assign a pattern to that. That's apparently the one that dropped out.
Let me go back to my schematic here.
See that thing that says VCC up in the top?
Yes.
Okay, so I've got to add another connector to that then?
That's called a net port.
Okay,
But the pin here that we've got to the right of that,
okay.
that we've connected to the VCC net, that's where the pattern comes from.
Okay, so that was,
I'm sure there's other ways to do this.
yeah, I tried to assign a pattern to it, some sort of pattern to it. It doesn't show up.
If you double click on the mail pattern, mail or the VCC.
Things in VCC, if I double click to that, it doesn't allow me to assign a text.
Yeah,
pattern.
there's no patterns assigned to those. It's kind of a specialty connection.
Well, I gotta actually put something there connected to it.
What's the net name that you have on there?
Net port 6.
Okay. You see where I mouse over those wires here and it says VCC on mine? I actually changed that net port 6 to VCC. So if you look at I think it's properties there. You give it a name of VCC. Or you can leave it at net port 6 and connect that.
Yeah,
pin
I'll connect one of those to it then.
You can just connect that pin to net port 6.
Yeah, because I don't have those components on there, so I'll have to add this one. Okay. Thank you.
Steve,
Yes.
this is Doug. How did you make that connection to that net, to the wire?
This one out here, where I've got my mouse.
Yes.
Let me disconnect it right now. I'm going to delete from net. So you got two ways. I can run a wire here, right? And hook it in if I wanted to. Or I can say, let me add escape there. I can right click and say, add it to a net. And then you check the box that says connect without a wire. And you pick which net you want to hook it to. Well, I've renamed the VCC net from net port or net whatever to VCC.
I've been trying to catch up in the background, so
Okay.
there's the one part I could not figure out. Thanks.
No, that's good. It reinforces those things. And then you hit OK, and it even labels it for you. Because sometimes it's going to be convenient not to use a wire on the schematic and just hook things up that way. I hate schematics where they do everything without wires, because all they have is a bunch of components sitting there on the screen, and then you got to kind of visualize how it's all hooked up. You've seen schematics like that before, right? You're muted,
Hey,
Mike.
Steve, could you show that one more time? I missed the part where you did that wireless connection to the.
Okay. I'm going to right click on the arrow at the output here. I'm going to delete it from the net. So now all we've got here is a connector male, right?
Right.
Like if I look at the properties of that part, it's con male. And so I can right click on the little square box on the end there and say add that to a net. And you can pick which net you want to hook it to from your drop down list. And we want that to be the same net as this over here, where
Okay.
same
I
net
got
as
it.
pin 8 on your chip.
Yeah. All right. Let me. I want to do that. Whoops.
But if you rename those nets for ground and VCC, then when you put a terminal out here like that, it kind of it all makes sense.
Got it. Delete.
It's more readable on the schematic. But you can also mouse over and see where the connections go if you're not sure where something goes.
So for the out,
Mm-hmm.
the out one, like you've got an out indicator. Where'd you get that? Like I'm trying to create a net for out.
Okay, let me delete that from the net here. And we'll delete the other one from the net. And let's see, over on the right here, there's an arrow there. Or the far right. Can you see this on my screen where it says nets?
Yep.
There's the list of my nets here. And so the one for out is gone, right?
Right.
Is that what does your screen show ground and net 1 through 6 and VCC?
Yep. Mine looks like yours.
Okay. So if I go here to this pin and I say I want to add this to a net, and it popped that one in there, VCC. But if it isn't there, you can hit the plus symbol and add a new net.
Okay.
And so there's no net called out. So I'm going to hit plus and put in out. And then hit OK, connect without a wire. And so there we go. And now I can go connect the other one to the same net.
All right. I'm there. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all things we did shouldn't change the PCB at all, though, right?
What you want to do now at this point, you've made changes to the schematic, save it. Save your file.
Okay, done.
And then when we go back to the PCB, go up to File and say Renew Layout by Components. And it will make any changes to your PCB. So if you added a pattern for VCC, ground, or out, added a pattern to that connector pin, it'll pop in the schematic now. It might not be routed, and so you can place it where you want and then hit auto route, and it'll route that. Say when you say renew by components, then you got to point to the schematic and double click that. So mine didn't really make any changes. So is everybody caught up?
Not caught up. I feel like I'm back. I'm with y'all from the beginning of the hour.
Okay.
I haven't got to the point of making the PCB layout, so I'm still working on wiring and renaming things and stuff like that. So at least that's where I'm at. I feel like I can take what's been shared so far and then make the PCB layout.
We got your number anyway.
We'll just start up a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, had your number for years.
Is this a good place to stop, or does everybody want to keep going?
It's a good place for me to stop. I'm gonna have to jump off of here. At least I feel like I got caught up a little bit.
Okay. We'll leave that PCB where it is right now. I'll email out a picture of that, but you can arrange those parts on there however you want. If something doesn't route very cleanly and you don't like how it looks, you can move parts around and stuff, and you'll look to see how everything reacts and how cleanly it shows up.
Hey, Steve, I got one quick.
Sure.
So I can see like the auto routing does some initial, like here's where the wires, and you can move those on the stuff on the front side. But I see the wires on the back side. How do I access those if I want to move those around?
Yeah, if you're going to do some tweaking on the wire itself and just drag a wire.
Yeah,
You don't like where it's at. You don't like how the router. You can, up here at the top, it says top 1. You can change that to bottom.
Ah, great.
And there's all the bottom
Perfect.
wires. So,
thank you.
So you can switch between top and bottom. You can also, let's see if there's a good example here. You see this wire on the left on my screen here?
Yeah.
It goes to the ground pad. I'm going to go to the bottom side here, and I don't like that wire. I don't want that wire on the bottom. I can right click on that, trace that wire, and I can change I can send it to the top. So if I do that and click on it, now I just put that trace on the top side of the board. And I could do the same thing with this one. I could drag that around a little bit. Oh, come on now. We can make it pretty and drag it around, and we can also right click on that and send that trace to the top layer. And we go back to the top. Now there they are. So you really do quite a bit of manipulation with this. One thing I do like to do though is I like to make the traces fatter than that. I like a little bit of meat on mine. And let me look at my other schematic and see what I set those to. You can look at the properties of a trace, and you can tweak individual traces too. If there's something you've got to squeeze into an area, you can
carry higher current too.
Yeah, you make it wide to carry higher current, or make it narrow, to get between a couple of pins somewhere where you got a tight spot.
Make it small enough and use it as an onboard fuse.
There you go. I've got 0.03 inches. So if I took one of these traces here, I could, let's see, where's the trace width is right there. I'm going to do a custom one. What did I say the number was? 0.03?
Is that right?
And there we got a nice fat trace. But there's an easier way to do that. You can change it in the auto router setup. And there's a whole bunch of settings in there that you can look at and play with.
Hey, Steve, tell me again how we found holes.
How we found holes.
Yeah, where do we find the holes for the card of the board?
Oh, the mounting holes?
Yeah, where do we
objects, I believe. Yeah.
Objects?
Place mounting hole.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay. Verification. I'll give you some homework here. Under verification, you can click on design rules. And it brings up this nice screen here with all these parameters. And these are really set wrong. I wouldn't say wrong. They're set to some other value. But say you wanted to send this board to OSH Park. To have them make you some boards. There's the website. And we would, if we were just wanting to see what our board is going to look like, we could drop the Gerber files right here. Under support, there's a design tool help. And you can scroll down and see all the different design tools that they work with. KiCad, Eagle, Gerber V, Circuit Maker, Designer Altium, Allegro, Design Spark, Easy PC, Free PCB, Fritzing pads. There's a whole slew of them there, but you want to click on the DipTrace one and scroll down, and it'll show you their design rules in mils. And our screen, it's in inches, so you want to change those to where it says 6 mils. You want to change that to 0.006, and then set your check boxes accordingly. And let me see if I can find that chat window, and I'll put this link there. Okay, the link for that's in the chat window. So you can get your design rules set up and stuff, and then you can check your circuit board and see if things are too close together, you know, if they're not going to pan out for making a PC board.
Steve, also when I ran the auto router without establishing a board outline, and it drew a board, it looks like a board outline in for me. Is it
did it? Oh, very good.
Okay, I want to make sure that's what I had.
Okay.
I didn't really place it, but once I got the components placed.
I'm just pulling up a 555 on Mauser's website, and they have an agreement with some folks that provide library stuff for doing PCB work, and you can actually download a library. You can download, some of the parts have libraries, and you can download those for a particular part, and it's a little bit tough, but you can import that into the drawing program and actually have that all drawn up for you, the part, even the 3D, the 555, they've got a 3D version of it right there. Oh, clear. So that's kind of nice if you don't have a particular part, but it's just a PDIP 8-pin package. There's nothing fancy about that one. But it makes a good example for showing you guys that. So if you don't like how things are going and you just want to redo it all under route, you can say unroute all and move things around or change parameters. And I can go to route setup here. And for the trace width, instead of 0.012, I can say 0.03. And okay, and then run the auto router again, and now I get big traces. And you can drag parts around without unrouting and rerouting stuff. You can line up traces that way. So anyway, play with this, and we'll pick up here next week. See if we can make the board pretty, and
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, you're almost to the point where next week we can create some Gerber files and drop them on the website and see what a board costs. What I've got on my screen can be shrunk down quite a bit. There is an auto placement thing to arrange the components. I've never had any luck with that. It just kind of scrambles things around some mishmash way, and nothing looks right. All righty. We'll see everybody next week then. Any questions, just reach out to me. We'll get you all caught up to the same point here where we got a board here. And why don't you play with your layout of your board a little bit, see what you can do with the sizes and stuff.
Don't forget to save. Don't do what I did.
That's all right. Just redraw it. Regenerate it, relay it out. And maybe you want to do that sometime. You may want to just start from scratch, make another layout, and compare the two when you get done, and say, oh, which one's better, right?
If you can't tell, third, fourth, fifth, sixth time might be a charm.
Oh yeah, I'll come back and look at something, a day later, a week later, and like, oh, that's not right. Let's move this around. Let's move that around.
Find out you put VCC to ground.
Yeah. You can do that. You mouse over a connection here, and it'll highlight the connections for you. But like I looked at this one. Let's see, what didn't I like about this one? Oh, this trace down here on the bottom side. That could just as easily be on the top side, going to this capacitor, and it's on the bottom side, going around. It's close to the mounting hole. I don't like things real close to the mounting hole. But you'll see things and say, let's change that, or things get a little too close. The other thing we can remind me next week, we'll change the size of these pads. I'd like to beef those up a little bit too. You don't want them coming off on the end of your soldering iron. All righty.
Yep.
Everybody having fun?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I need to catch up.
Yep. Okay. This will give you a chance to, we'll pick up from here next week and play with the auto router and go to OSH Park and see if you can put those parameters in your, in for the design rules. So if we get something, too close, nope, you can drop stuff on their website and take a what if, and they'll tell you how much the board costs right then and there. I also found there was a Gerber viewer online at a website. You could drop Gerbers on there, and I've tweaked stuff based on what I saw on there. Something looked a little bit too close, but yet it looked okay on my drawing program, and so I just gave it a little more tolerance. But like this trace on the bottom side here, that's a little close to that pad for my comfort. And you may want to separate, those a little bit. So if I went to the bottom here and said, just send that sucker to the other side. Much better. You guys must be having too much fun. Nobody's gone away yet.
All
But this is going to beat the heck out of etching boards. I may still etch a board one off if I've got one project that, I want a board right now for, but 9 times out of 10, I'll just send off for some boards. If they're tiny ones, then OSH Park ends up being a good deal. If they're larger boards, then send them off to China to one of the China vendors. And we can look at that. We'll look at the size of our board, and we'll go to PCB Shopper and plug in some parameters and see what a board costs there, and get some bids from different vendors there. So,
All right.
Alrighty. Anybody got any questions before we go?
Just one quick follow up. So when you change the size of your traces, where was that again?
That was under the router setup, route and
Shape router setup.
route setup. Yep.
Oh,
Route and route setup. And I changed those to 0.013.
oh, okay, got it.
And there's your trace clearance there too.
To 0.03.
0.03, yeah.
Thank you.
So right now, this particular board is, if I look at the layout information, this board is 1.5 inches by 1 inch. I actually built this, and I used it for a speed controller on one of those kiddie cars to slow it down a little bit. It was going a little bit too fast for my taste. Just put a pot on the back there and reach down. Let's turn that down a little bit.
Where was that at, Steve?
The board size, file, and layout information. And it gives you all kinds of stuff, how many nets there are, if there's any vias, any holes that are routing a trace to the other side and through a hole. And so when we make it surface mount, there'll probably be some vias there. I think you can make this particular one, if you arrange things just right, you can make it without any. But a more complex board, you're gonna have a number of vias. And all righty, till next week. Think of some questions for next week.
Okie dokie.